So how many others here know the great Caer Anterth hand grenade story? Nobody. Oh, good.
So.
Means if I screw it up, you won't know. Back in the early days, Caer Anterth, well, we started with exactly one heavy weapons fighter. His name was Mikael. He was also our first seneschal. Why? Because when the barony of, well, the Shire of Caer Anterth started, virtually all of them were students, and he was the only one with a permanent address, so we made him seneschal. That way he would get the newsletter. And he was himself somewhat of an amateur armorer. So, of course, he immediately became our first authorized fighter. Then he made a second set of armor for his wife, Jean, who became our second authorized fighter. She had a lot of fun with it. She said hitting her husband with a stick did wonderful things to support the marriage, until about the 4th month of her pregnancy, when she didn't fit into the armor anymore. She said it was a total bummer. This has nothing to do with the story, but this is just background. At one of the very first Boarset events, this was being held downtown Milwaukee in a huge cathedral hall at a place called St. James Episcopal Church. Huge vaulted ceiling, wonderful place to hold an event in. They had set up a special arena for the fighters. And one of the bouts was Mikael, who loved to play with glaive, and another fighter from Madison who liked to play with glaive. Some of you may have heard of him. His name was Shukka the Guardian. I see all the old folks. Yeah, he's sort of hard to forget, isn't it? So they go out there to the field, and our one and only marshal, that was, what was that? I know exactly what he looked like. Ian de Cheveg-McCravers, that was his name, who in fact was a fencing instructor who sold the arms downtown. He was being our official marshal. He goes out there, walks out with the two of them with their glaives. All right, bear you any offensive steel? No. All right, bow to your partners, lay on. They go whackety-whack and proceed to kill each other, which apparently with glaives happens a lot. All right, go stand in line for the rematch. Now, Shukka, as far as I know, is an old Celtic name which means very silly man. He goes back to his armor bag and gets a dummy hand grenade, which he just for some reason happened to have with him. Tucks it inside of his breastplate. So when they go out there for the second round, the marshal looks at them and says, "Bear you any offensive steel?" And Mikael shakes his head. And Shukka looks thoughtful for a moment, reaches into his armor, pulls out the hand grenade, and hands it to the marshal. And he looks at us, "Anything else?" No. Okay. All right, lay on. 3 whacks later, they've double killed each other again. This seems to be a glaive thing. I'm really not a fighter, so I don't know. Back of the line. All right. Eventually, they come out on the field for round 3, and Ian steps out and goes, "Bear you any offensive?" Says, "Wait a minute, I remember you." And knowing for a fact that Shukka used to be a cop in Chicago, grabs Shukka and says, "All right, you, up against the wall, spread your legs," and proceeds to pat him down. "Okay, you're clean, get back out there." And Shukka looks at the marshal and says, "What about him?" pointing at Mikael. "All right, you, up against the wall." So he pats him down. And Shukka and Mikael look at each other without saying a word, grab the marshal, put him up against the wall. At this point, our brand new baron named Dougal is sitting at the head table with who is then the king of the mid-realm, who, if I recall, was Laurelin. And hearing the commotion, which is basically a whole line of fighters lapping up their sleeves, waiting in line, he looks up to see these 2 large men in armor holding the marshal up against the wall and frisking him. And Laurelyn turns to Barundugel and says, Your Grace, I am rather new to this vicinity, and I am not exactly familiar with all of your local customs. Could you possibly tell me, what are they doing? And Dougal, with a perfectly straight face, said, They are checking for hand grenades, Your Majesties. And Laurelyn looks back for a moment and says, let us presume I didn't ask. Someone did win the third round. I don't remember who it was. But that was now the famous Caer Anterth hand grenade story.